My dad handed me an itemized bill at Christmas. $67,400. What we spent raising you. Time to pay back. My sister nodded. Fair is fair. I pulled out my phone, showed them my itemized list. 12 years of rent I paid. Groceries, medical bills, car payments. Dad's face went white. That's different. He yelled. I smiled. You're right. Mine totals $284,000. I'll expect payment by. My name's Dustin. I'm 34. I'm a chemist and a biology researcher. Not the TV kind, the real kind. I run essays. I write reports. I fight with broken incubators. I spend way too much time labeling tiny tubes so nobody dies from a mistake. I live 2 hours away from my parents because my job is near the lab. And because distance helps when your family thinks boundaries is a word you use to be dramatic. My parents are Bob and Denise. My sister is Paige. She's 30 and somehow still the baby of the house. This year, I almost skipped Christmas. Not because I hate Christmas. I actually like the boring stuff. The lights, the tree, the cheap cinnamon candles that smell like a grocery store bakery. I almost skipped because every holiday with my family has a moment. The moment where someone says something small and you feel it land like a brick. But my mom called me 2 weeks before and did the voice. The soft one. Dustin, please come. Your dad's been in a mood. If you're here, he'll behave. That should have been my first sign to stay home. Still, I went. I drove up Christmas Eve with a cooler in my trunk because my mom asked me to bring the nice ham. I stopped at a fancy grocery store and dropped $48 on something called a brown sugar glaze packet, like I didn't grow up on spiral ham from a coupon. I walked into my parents' house and got hit with warm air, pine smell, and the sound of Paige's kids screaming like tiny banshees. My mom hugged me hard. Oh, thank God. She whispered like I was a fire extinguisher. My dad barely looked up from the couch. He was watching some sports recap, remote in hand, beer on the end table like it was glued there. He glanced at my jacket, then at my shoes. Must be nice, he said. That was it. That was the trigger. Not even a hello, just that tone. The one that says my life is some kind of personal insult. I forced a smile. Hi to you too, Dad. He snorted. Science man shows up. We all have to act impressed. Paige laughed from the kitchen like it was a joke. She was stirring something on the stove. Her hair was messy. Her sweatshirt had flour on it. And she looked tired in that. I'm exhausted, but also deeply convinced I'm the only one who works way. Dustin, she said, dragging my name out. You brought the ham, right? I lifted the cooler. Yep, she nodded like I delivered my assigned tribute. Good. Put it in the fridge. And don't forget, we're doing gifts tomorrow morning at 9 sharp. The kids can't wait. I didn't even get a good to see you. I walked to the fridge, shoved the ham inside, and stared at the shelves for a second like the fridge had answers. I could already feel it, that tightness in my chest like I was 12 again, standing in the hallway while Paige got praised for breathing. I tried to keep it light. I really did. I helped my mom set the table. I played a board game with Paige's kids, even though the rules made no sense, and I lost on purpose because toddlers take winning personally. My dad stayed on the couch most of the night, chiming in just enough to take shots at me. So what do you do all day? He asked at one point, loud enough for everyone to hear. Mix potions? Make frogs grow extra legs. I laughed politely. I work on antimicrobial resistance, Dad. He waved his beer. Yeah. Sounds expensive. My mom shot him a look. Bob, he smirked. What? I'm just saying. Some of us had to work real jobs. Paige's husband, Mark, kept his eyes on his phone. He's the kind of guy who survives family chaos by becoming furniture. I kept swallowing my reactions because that's what I do. Because I'm Dustin. Because I'm stable. Because if I react, I'm too sensitive. Then my dad stood up like he was about to make a toast. He didn't have a glass. He didn't smile. He just cleared his throat and said, tomorrow, after breakfast, we need to talk about something. Adult to adult. My mom froze mid-wipe of the counter. Paige looked up fast. I felt my stomach drop. What kind of something? I asked. Dad's I stayed on me. Money? Paige nodded once like she already knew. My mom whispered, Bob, not tomorrow. He cut her off. No, tomorrow. It's time. Then he sat back down like he'd just announced the weather. And I stood there in my parents' kitchen, staring at a Christmas wreath on the wall, thinking, oh, so that's why they wanted me here. I didn't grow up rich. We were middle class on paper, but in real life, we lived in constant, we can't afford that mode. My dad was a provider, which in his mind meant he worked, and everyone else owed him gratitude forever. My mom worked on and off, mostly retail. She was the peacekeeper, the one who said, that's just how your dad is. Like that explained anything. Paige was the youngest. She was cute. She cried easy. She had that talent where she could look sad and somehow turn it into money. I was the oldest, so I learned early that if I wanted something, I had to make it happen. I worked in high school. I worked in college. I worked in grad school. When other people were doing spring break trips, I was cleaning lab benches and tutoring undergrads, so I could afford rent. My parents loved telling people I was so smart, but they didn't love supporting me. My dad's favorite line when I left for college was, you wanted independence, so don't come crying to me. So I didn't. I took out loans. I ate cheap noodles. I wore the same coat for 5 winters. Then when I was 24 and halfway through my PhD, my mom got sick. Not the dramatic movie kind, the slow, expensive kind. My parents called me like I was the emergency contact for their bank account. My mom cried on the phone. Dustin, your dad's trying, but we're behind the insurance. It's a mess. I asked, how far behind? My dad took the phone and said, sharp, we're fine. We just need help. Temporary. Temporary. That word should have come with sirens. I sent money, not once monthly. At first, it was $300, then $600. Then my mom needed a procedure, and my dad said, we're not taking out a loan. So I did. I took a personal loan with a dumb interest rate because I was a broke grad student with future potential, which banks love to pretend they care about. I paid it off over 2 years. I didn't brag. I didn't even tell anyone. I just did it because that's what good sons do, right? Then Paige had her rough patch. She dropped out of nursing school, decided it wasn't her passion, and moved back home. My parents acted like this was a tragic event that required immediate funding. My dad called me. Paige needs help getting back on her feet. I asked, is she working? He said, she's figuring it out. That was code for no. So I paid for Paige's car insurance for 6 months. Then Paige needed a newer car because hers was unsafe. My dad said, family helps family. So I co-signed like an idiot. Then Paige got pregnant. My parents threw a baby shower. They went all out. I showed up with a gift and got pulled aside by my dad in the hallway. Your sister needs diapers, he said like I was the diaper department. Do the right thing. I started buying diapers. Not one pack. Cases bulk. Like I owned stock and Pampers. And here's the thing. Every time I helped, they acted like it was normal. Like I was just doing my job as the family's backup wallet. No, thank you. No. Are you okay? Just can you cover this? Can you handle that? Can you send it tonight? When I finally got my research job and started making real money, it got worse because now they knew I had it. My dad's tone changed from temporary help to you owe us. He'd say stuff like, we sacrificed for you. You wouldn't be where you are without us. You have a good life because we raised you, right? Which is funny because I raised myself. I remember one Thanksgiving. Paige saw me paying for groceries on my phone at the kitchen counter. She leaned in like she was watching a magic trick. Wow, she said. It must feel amazing to just have money. I laughed awkwardly. It feels like rent and student loans. She rolled her eyes. Yeah, but still you're fine. Then she said it, that casual entitlement. So, are you going to help mom and dad with the mortgage this year? Because Mark and I are tight. Tight meant they just booked a weekend trip, but okay. I said, I already sent money last month. Paige shrugged. Well, that's what family does. My dad overheard and nodded like she'd said something profound. Exactly like that. A nod. A silent agreement that I was the designated payer. Then, about 3 months before Christmas, my dad started dropping weird hints. He'd send me articles about adult children repaying parents. He'd make comments like, "Kids these days don't appreciate what they cost." He'd say it like he was talking about a car. I ignored it because I didn't want to deal with it. Then he started a new family group chat. Not the old one, a new one with a name, Family Finances. I stared at it on my phone at work in the middle of a lab meeting and almost laughed out loud. My mom posted one message. "Let's keep things respectful." My dad posted right after. "Respect goes both ways. We'll discuss contributions at Christmas." Paige added a thumbs up emoji. A thumbs up like this was some business meeting. I texted my mom privately. "Me? What is this?" "Mom, he's been reading stuff online. Please just keep calm." "Me? Is he serious?" "Mom, just come. It'll go better if you're there." That's how my mom handles problems. She drags me into them and calls it peace. So, I went to Christmas knowing something was coming, but still not knowing how insane it would be. Because my dad has a special talent for taking a bad idea and making it worse. Christmas morning was chaos. Paige's kids tore through wrapping paper like they were paid per box. My mom kept saying, "Slow down. Save the bows." My dad sat in his chair with coffee, watching like a manager supervising a shift. I gave the kids their gifts. I gave Paige and Mark a gift card for groceries because they were tight. Paige smiled big, kissed my cheek, and said, "See, you get it." I wanted to say, "I get exploited," but I didn't. We ate breakfast around 11 o'clock. Pancakes, eggs, the fancy ham I brought. My dad barely touched his plate. He was waiting like he was holding his breath for the main event. After the dishes, he stood up and said, "All right." My mom's face went pale. Paige sat up straighter. Mark leaned back and crossed his arms like he was about to watch a fight. Dad walked to the living room and came back with an envelope. Not a Christmas envelope, a manila envelope. Thick. He set it on the table in front of me like a ticket. I stared at it. He said, "Open it." I looked at my mom. She couldn't meet my eyes. Paige was smiling a little. Not happy smiling, more like finally smiling. So I opened it. Inside was a stapled packet, a printed spreadsheet, multiple pages. The top page had a title in bold, "Dustin, itemized cost of raising you." Under that, a total number, $67,400. I blinked like my eyes were glitching. Dad said, "Proud, we kept it reasonable." I looked up. "What is this?" He pointed like a teacher. Food, clothing, school supplies, gas money, sports fees, doctor visits, Christmas presents, everything. Paige nodded and said with this smug little voice, "Fair is fair." I felt my chest go hot. I actually laughed once because my brain didn't know what else to do. "You're billing me?" I said slowly. Dad's jaw tightened. "Don't use that word." "What word?" "Billing. That's literally what this is." He leaned forward. "You're an adult. You make good money, and we're not getting younger." My mom whispered, "Bob." He ignored her. He tapped the total with his finger. "You pay this back. We can do a payment plan." Paige jumped in fast. "It's not even that much, Dustin. You spend more than that on science stuff." I stared at her. "On science stuff?" She waved a hand. "You know, lab toys." "Whatever." Mark finally spoke, not looking up from his phone. "I mean, it makes sense. Parents invest. Kids pay back. That's how it should be." I felt like I was floating above my own body, watching this from a ceiling. I flipped through the pages. There was a line item for extra groceries for teenage son. There was a line item for school field trip, $18. There was a line item for gas, driving Dustin to college visits. There was even emotional labor, Mom, with a random number next to it. I looked at my mom. "Did you know about this part?" She whispered. I told him it was too much. Dad snapped. "Denise, stop." Then he looked at me again. "This is the part where you say thank you." Paige said, "Yeah, like don't be dramatic." And something in me just clicked. Not rage exactly, more like clarity. Like my brain finally stopped trying to make them reasonable people. I put the packet down. I pulled out my phone. Dad frowned. "Oh, so now you're going to ignore us?" "No, I said I'm going to answer. I opened my notes app because here's the thing. I don't just work in science. I work with numbers, with documentation, with receipts. I said, since we're doing itemized lists, I made one too. Paige's smile slipped. What? Dad scoffed. Dustin, don't. I started reading. 2012 to 2016 rent assistance for Paige's rough patch. $14,400. Paige's face changed. That wasn't. I kept going. 2015, mom's medical loan. I took out $9,800. Paid in full. My mom inhaled sharply. Dad barked. That was family help, right? I said, keep that energy. I scrolled. 2017, Paige's car insurance. $1,260. 2018, cosign car. Paid the down payment when she didn't have it. $3,500. Paige started shaking her head. You're twisting it. I kept reading. 2019 to 2025 monthly temporary support for mom and dad. Average $650 per month. $46,800. My dad went still like somebody unplug him. I tapped the screen. Groceries I bought when you said you were short. Estimated $7,200. Pages. Baby supplies. Diapers. Formula. Car seat. $3,900. Mark sat up. Dude, I didn't stop. Car payments I covered when Dad's truck got repossession warnings for $1,600. Dad's face started turning white. Like actually white, not angry white, more like, oh no, the story is changing white. Paige looked at my mom like she wanted help. My mom just stared at the table, lips pressed tight, like she was trying not to cry. I scrolled to the bottom, and that's not counting the interest. The missed work or the times I didn't track because I thought we were family. I tilted my phone so they could see the total. $284,000. Silence. Actual heavy silence. Then my dad exploded. That's different. He yelled, standing up so fast his chair scraped the floor. That's different, and you know it. I smiled. Not because it was funny, because it was done. You're right. I said it is different. He breathed hard, eyes wild. We raised you, and I've been paying you back for years. I said calm. Apparently with interest. Paige snapped. You're being petty. I looked at her. You just nodded at a bill from my childhood. Don't say petty like you know what it means. Dad jabbed a finger at me. You think you can threaten your parents? I'm not threatening. I said I'm matching your energy. Then I said the part that made my mom gasp. So here's my offer. You want repayment? Great. We'll do it properly. Dad sneered. Good. Finally. I nodded and tapped my screen. I'll subtract your $67,400 from my $284,000. Paige whispered. No way. I looked at my dad. You owe me $216,600. My dad's mouth opened, but nothing came out for a second. I kept my voice even. I'll expect payment by, let's say, next Christmas. Fair is fair. Paige stood up. Dustin, you can't. I leaned back in my chair and said, sure I can. We're doing spreadsheets now. Dad yelled, get out. My mom whispered, please, please, just. I stood up, put my phone in my pocket, and grabbed my jacket. I'm leaving, I said. And just so we're clear, the money stops today. My dad shouted after me as I walked toward the door. You ungrateful? I turned back once. I'm not ungrateful, I said. I'm done. Then I left Christmas dinner while Paige's kids were still playing with new toys, and my mom was crying quietly at the table like she'd known this day was coming for years. The first thing that happened was my phone started blowing up before I even got home. Calls, texts, voicemails, my dad screaming, Paige crying, my mom pleading. And then about an hour later, the extended family started chiming in like a swarm. Because Paige did what Paige always does. She told a story first. She posted in the family group chat, not the finance one, the big one with cousins and aunts. Dustin ruined Christmas. He attacked Dad. He said, Mom and Dad owe him money. He stormed out. Kids were crying. Kids were not crying. The kids were literally building a Lego tower. When I left, I typed one message and kept it short. Dad handed me an itemized bill for my childhood and demanded $67,400. I responded with documentation of what I've paid for this family. I won't be funding anyone anymore. Then I muted the chat because I knew what would happen next. And it happened exactly. People messaged me privately not to ask if I was okay to calm down. One aunt wrote, "Your father is old-fashioned. Humor him." A cousin wrote, "You only get one family." My favorite was my uncle. "Your dad's pride is hurt. Just apologize and pay something so this can end." Pay something. Like this was a parking ticket. The next day, my mom showed up at my apartment. No warning, just a knock like the police. I opened the door and she looked small, bundled in her coat, eyes red. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside. She walked in and immediately started crying, hands twisting together. "He didn't mean it like that," she said. He feels like you're leaving us behind." I stared at her. "He literally printed a bill." She whispered. "He's scared and I'm tired," I said. She flinched. Then she said the line that made me realize my mom was part of the machine, too. "Paige is struggling. You know that. If you stop helping, she'll suffer." I said, "Paige is 30. She has kids." Mom said like that was a magic shield. "So do millions of people who pay their own bills." I replied. My mom wiped her face and tried a different approach. "We're family. We don't keep score." I laughed, sharp and humorless. "Mom, he literally kept score with staples." She went quiet. Then she said, barely audible, "He's talking about legal action." I blinked. "What?" She nodded, eyes wide like she couldn't believe she was saying it. "He says it's a debt that you owe." I cut her off. "No." I pulled out my laptop right in front of her and opened my bank history. I showed her the transfers, the monthly payments, the big one-time payments, the loan payoff, the car insurance, all of it. I said, "If he wants to play legal games, we can because I have proof of everything I sent, and he has what? A fantasy invoice." My mom's face tightened. She whispered, "He's your father and I'm his son," I said. "Not his retirement plan." After she left, I did something I should have done years ago. I locked everything down. I removed my parents from any accounts they had access to. I canceled the automatic monthly transfer I'd been sending them for groceries. I called the company on Paige's car note and got my name removed from anything I legally could. The rest I paid off to free myself because I refused to be tethered. I also called a lawyer, just a consultation, just to ask, can a parent bill a child? The lawyer actually chuckled. Then he got serious and said they can try, but no, this isn't enforceable, and if they harass you, document everything. So I did. My dad left me voicemails. Full volume rage. "You think you're better than us. You're selfish. We should have never helped you." That last one was wild because they didn't. Paige tried manipulation. She sent me pictures of her kids with captions like they missed their uncle. Then she sent a long message. "You embarrassed Dad. You embarrassed me. You have no idea what Mom goes through. You think money is everything because you're a cold lab robot. You owe this family." A cold lab robot. "Okay," I replied one time. "One more message like that and you're blocked." She sent another message immediately. "Wow. So you're abandoning us." So I blocked her. Then my dad tried a softer tactic, which was almost scarier. He called and left a voicemail in a calm voice. "Son, let's talk. You got emotional. We can make a plan." Like I was a misbehaving employee who needed coaching. I didn't respond. Then the threats came back. He emailed me. Yes, emailed a PDF of the bill, like he was sending an invoice to a client. Subject line payment plan. I forwarded it to my lawyer and laughed until it turned into a weird, shaky silence. Because here's the part nobody talks about. When you stop being the family ATM, you don't just lose them. You lose the version of them you kept hoping would show up. I spent a couple weeks feeling guilty in this gross old way, like I'd done something wrong by saying no. Then my life got quieter. I woke up without dread. I bought groceries without wondering who would text me next. I booked a small weekend trip without Paige's voice in my head saying, "Must be nice." At work, I caught myself smiling at stupid things again. A clean data set, a successful run, even the stupid broken incubator, because at least the incubator didn't call me ungrateful. One night, my coworker asked if I wanted to grab a beer after a late shift. I almost said no out of habit. Then I said yes. We sat at a small bar, with sticky tables and bad fries, and he asked, "You okay lately? You seem lighter." I didn't dump the whole story. I just said, "I stopped funding my family." He nodded like he understood immediately. "Good." He said, "That's not your job." And it hit me, sitting there, with cheap beer and salt on my fingers. Normal people don't live like I lived. Normal people don't get billed for being born. It's been months now. I haven't seen my dad since that Christmas. My mom texts sometimes. Short messages. "How are you? I miss you." She never mentions the bill directly. Like, if she doesn't name it, it didn't happen. Paige hasn't reached out since I blocked her. But I heard through a cousin that she's furious because Dustin thinks he's rich now. I'm not rich. I just finally stopped hemorrhaging money into a bottomless pit labeled family obligation. The weirdest part is how fast they adjusted. When I stopped paying, they didn't suddenly become grateful for the years I did. They got angry because the help wasn't love to them. It was entitlement. My dad wanted to turn my childhood into a debt so he could control me again because control is the only language he respects. And Paige nodded because Paige benefits from that system. That's the truth I didn't want to admit for a long time. I kept hoping that if I gave enough, they'd treat me like I mattered, like I belonged. But love doesn't come with invoices. And respect doesn't come with payment plans. So here's the moral as plainly as I can say it. If your family only feels close when you're paying, you're not family. You're a resource. And the moment you stop being useful, they'll call you selfish for having a spine. I didn't ruin Christmas. My dad did when he stapled my childhood to a spreadsheet and slid it across the table like I was a debtor. I just refused to sign. Now I have a rule. Simple. If someone asks me for help, I can say yes if it's actually help. But if someone demands money like I owe them for existing, that's not help. That's extortion with a Hallmark soundtrack. So yeah, they can keep their itemized bill, and if they ever bring it up again, I'll say the same thing I said at that table. You're right. It's different because this time the difference is I'm not paying anymore.